Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ezdiani binti Roleb. Today I'm going to present my paper, An Analysis of Adequate Procedures to Combat Corruption in Corporate Sectors under Section 17A of the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Act 2009. Before I go further, I would like to briefly explain an overview of my paper. Actually, on 5th April 2018, Parliament passed Section 17A of the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission Act 2009, hereinafter referred as MACC Act, which imposes corporate liability on commercial organizations. Hence, corporate sectors are required to ensure that their commercial organizations have adequate procedures in place as a defense if they are prosecuted for corruption offences. The problem in this paper is whether the procedures are adequate to protect commercial organizations from become liable under the provision. The objectives of my paper is to analyze the impact of the adequate procedures to combat bribery and corruption in corporate sectors issued by the Minister as well as the best practice handbook. This research paper is actually based on doctrinal research, which involves conducting studies to investigate the legal concept as well as the principles of all types of statutes, regulations, and decided cases. This research paper focuses on research on the MACC Act itself, as well as the guidelines issued by the Minister as required under the MACC Act and the handbook that was produced to complement the guidelines. My findings, there are two findings. First is the guidelines are more suitable for large commercial organizations rather than small businesses. Secondly, the reporting mechanism is not properly addressed. Actually, the purpose of this introduction of Section 17A MACC Act is to impose corporate liability on commercial organisation. I would like to refer to the Hansard table in the Parliament. The Deputy Minister at that time stated that the international community urges that corruption prevention initiatives are also focused on both the public as well as the private sectors. And then this Section 17A of the MACC Act is actually in line with the International Organization for Standardization ISO, which released the ISO 37001 2016 guidelines on anti-bribery management system to help organizations around the world to establish anti-bribery measures. Therefore, the provision of Section 17A is actually in compliance with the obligation to Article 26 of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption Agreement signed by Malaysia in 2003. Nonetheless, Section 17A, subsection 4, provides for the defense of corporate organizations. Corporate organizations must prove that the offense was committed without its consent or involvement, and it can show all the efforts that it has made to prevent such an offense. Actually, Section 17A of the MACC Act was drafted based on Section 7 of the Bribery Act 2010 in the United Kingdom. I would like to show the similarities of both provisions provided under Section 17A of the MACC Act as well as Section 7 UK Bribery Act 2010. Section 17A MACC Act provides offence by commercial organisation. A commercial organisation commits an offence if a person associated with the commercial organisation corruptly gives, agrees to give, promises or offers to any person any gratification, whether for the benefit of that person or another person with intent, A, to obtain or retain business for the commercial organisation, or B, to obtain or retain as advantage in the conduct of business for the commercial organisation. While Section 7 of the UK Bribery Act provides for the failure of commercial organizations to prevent bribery. Subsection 1 states that a relevant commercial organization C is guilty of an offence under this section if a person A associated with C bribes another person intending A to obtain or retain businesses for C or to obtain or retain an advantage in the conduct of business for C. Hence, we can see the similarities between Section 17A of the MACC Act as well as Section 7 of the UK Bribery Act. The first similarities is the corruption committed for the purpose of obtaining or retaining business for commercial organizations. Second, corruption was committed for the purpose of having an advantage in the conduct of business for the commercial organizations. Last, adequate procedures as a commercial organization's defense. Section 74 is equivalent to Section 7, Subsection 2 of the UK Bribery Act. As I mentioned earlier, Section 17(4), Section 17A, Subsection 4 of the MACC Act provides that the Minister shall issue a guideline on the adequate procedures. The guideline serves as an aid to corporate organizations in implementing the anti-corruption policy in their commercial organizations. Basically, there are 5 components in the adequate procedures or known as the trust principles. The first principle is top-level commitment. Second, risk assessment. Third, undertake control measures. Fourth, systematic review, monitoring and enforcement. Last but not least, training and communication. Actually, the guideline produced is peri material with UK, in which by virtue of Section 9 of the UK Bribery Act requires the Secretary of State for Justice to publish guidance about the adequate procedures, since the Act does not define adequate procedures. According to GIACC, the first component requires a company's top management to be accountable for ensuring that its companies practices the highest level of integrity ethics. The second requirement is that the company conduct risk assessment on a regular basis. It is important because the risk assessment results will be used to establish proper procedures, systems and controls to reduce the organization's corruption risk. Third, the company should prepare the appropriate controls and contingency measures to address any corruption risk resulting from weaknesses in the organization's governance framework, processes and procedures. Conducting due diligence, establishing a whistleblowing channel, managing conflicts of interest, providing gifts, entertainment, making facilitation payments and other responsibilities are outlined in the handbook. Fourth, it is the responsibility of the top management to ensure that reviews are conducted on a regular basis. The goal is to assess the performance, efficiency and effectiveness of the anti-corruption program while also ensuring that it is implemented. Last but not least, the company must disseminate all the policies, training, reporting channels, and consequences of non-compliance to all its anti-corruption management systems. The policy of anti-corruption must be made public and easy to access. After analyzing the handbook as well as the guidelines, these are my recommendations, my findings and recommendations. The handbook was published as a complement to the guidelines issued by the Minister. It is very fruitful for the commercial organizations to refer to because it is a comprehensive handbook. The handbook was created based on the knowledge from approximately 40 participants from all big companies in Malaysia. One of the suggestions is for the commercial organizations to have dedicated and independent departments dealing with anti-corruption programs. The suggested departments are Procurement Department, Whistleblowing Committee Department, Risk Management Department, Compliance and Integrity Department, as well as Internal Audit Department. All of these departments are meant to be an independent department to oversee and also to handle anti-corruption cases. The recommendations given in the handbook suit big commercial organizations rather than small businesses. It is difficult for small businesses to follow due to their resources, human capital, etc. For example, forming several independent departments as shown in the diagram before is good and will benefit commercial organizations, but small businesses might encounter problems due to the above mentioned reasons. Thus, it is my suggestion that, to be fair and more practical, the Business Integrity Alliance, who is the authority created this handbook should consider inviting participants from small and medium-sized enterprises or SME to participate in the future workshop to improve the handbook. Another good thing about this handbook is the handbook stress on the top management should possess high integrity and give full commitment to implement the anti-corruption policies. Top management also must ensure their organizations practice the highest level of integrity and ethics. They are also must ensure that their employees abide by all the anti-corruption laws, regulations, as well as policies. Nonetheless, I found that the handbook did not address specifically on reporting mechanism, especially when cases involve top management. As all we know that the reporting mechanism is actually the important tools in the corruption cases. It is my suggestions that the authorities, that is the Business Integrity Alliance, should consider this issue and enhance the book by addressing this issue. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you.